In today's video, we have a big topic surrounding AEW not signing a top star from New Japan Pro Wrestling. What went down? Why is this the case? Also, on top of that, NXT's Black and Gold Tommaso Ciampa being moved up to the main roster. Is this already doomed from the start? We have a very interesting photo to show you. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about Wardlow, who discusses the backstage atmosphere with Cody Rhodes and AEW. So, if you guys want more news videos like this, don't forget to click that subscribe button and ring the bell. We're going to kick things off with Tommaso Ciampa. As you guys can see here in this photo, Tommaso Ciampa was on WWE Main Event, getting one step closer to his main roster debut. In this case, he was competing against T-Bar, a.k.a. Dominik Dijakovic. And guys, this is like one of those things where it's a little crazy to see Ciampa finally being moved to the main roster, even just getting a glimpse of it. But what's really strange here is that Ciampa has completely changed his beard dye, meaning he dyed his beard fully brown compared to before, where Ciampa was sporting the gray and brown beard. Now, Vince McMahon historically has always been known to not like it when their wrestlers look older. There's countless stories on this as time goes on. But as far as Ciampa goes, I actually don't think the gray in his beard is a good idea. I think especially when you're coming from NXT or anywhere from that matter, I think if you're making a debut, you want to appear as younger than older, especially in the wrestling business, in my opinion. Ciampa is great. I think Ciampa's got that grittiness to him, with or without the gray beard. But I also think for his abilities, I think he's going to do really good on the main roster if WWE actually books him the right way. And that's the real question here is from my understanding in the past, Ciampa never wanted to be on the main roster. Clearly, there's no room for him on NXT. What do they do with Ciampa on the main roster? Now, I've mentioned in the past that Paul Heyman and WWE were tweeting about Paul Heyman guys, and Ciampa responded to that. So, if there's something that WWE can do to make Ciampa seem like a really big option on SmackDown or Raw, I do think pairing him with Paul Heyman would make the most sense. But of course, right now that could be somewhat unrealistic considering Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, and Paul Heyman are in a love triangle. So I want to know what you guys think about Ciampa going to the main roster. Do you guys think he's doomed or not? I'm very curious to hear your opinion. All right, guys, I also want to talk about Wardlow. He actually was talking about this recently. Just in general, he sat down with PW Insider, and he kind of talked about the backstage atmosphere with Cody Rhodes specifically. And it's just something that's really interesting because I see a lot of people do hate on Cody Rhodes, especially on social media and the YouTube comments and Discord. I never really understood why. But what's really interesting here is Wardlow came out and was talking about this. And something that he said was that really caught my attention. And this is for those of you who criticize AEW, this is not going to be news that you like to hear. But Wardlow says this. I mean, he's literally the biggest reason I am talking to you today and that I'm in AEW. I have him to thank extremely. But yeah, man, I don't know where all that talk comes from. I don't know if it's jealousy, people just hating on him, but I've never seen him treat anybody badly, and I've never had a bad experience with him. Now, the reason why I want to talk about this is because we talk so much about WWE releases, wrestlers not having the greatest relationship or the closest relationship with Vince McMahon, and then other WWE wrestlers have come out and said, well, you have to be the one to initiate that conversation with Vince. You need to be the one to go out there and wait at the door and make those conversations happen. Those are the type of people Vince McMahon respects. Vince McMahon respects people that aren't afraid to ask. And when you hear of these stories, though, of people not really being happy backstage in WWE, it seems like the opposite is taking place in AEW, which we can always assume that the backstage atmosphere is good. But of course, right now, lately, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding AEW and Tony Khan for his Big Swole tweet. So I didn't know realistically what the backstage morale was like at AEW. But from what it always seemed like it was good, especially when it came to Cody Rhodes. There had been stories of people saying, Cody is an asshole or whatnot, but this seems to be the total opposite. So just food for thought. If you guys are curious about backstage environment, I would take everything and take it from what the people backstage are actually saying. Wardlow is he's a credible option. I don't think he really has a mission to put out. I think he's very clear, He's been discovered by AEW, and now he needs to do his job. And if he's happy, he's happy. Again, we were talking about Wardlow possibly going to WWE because WWE is serious about him. The real question is, would Wardlow actually be a lifer with AEW? This tells me possibly. All right, guys, and before we get to our final story of the day, don't forget about Angle Plays. I think at this point we just need less than 200 subscribers, and we'll be at 1,000. New videos every single day, AEW's console game, WWE 2K22. If you guys like that type of stuff, if you guys want to watch that content, go ahead and click subscribe. All right, guys, and for our final story of the day, Tanahashi has re-signed with New Japan Pro Wrestling. And AEW is in a very, very interesting situation here because at one point it was rumored that Tony Khan was interested in signing Okada and Tanahashi. Now, of course, with both of them being stationed in Japan, wrestling for New Japan Pro Wrestling, nobody really knew what was going to happen as far as Tony Khan signing them. And this kind of goes to show that Tony Khan is not signing everyone, despite the fact that the opportunities are there. I also think when it comes to signing a very highly expensive contract, because I don't think Tanahashi is on the same level as Tony Nese, right? I think we can all agree on that. I think Tanahashi could have been an expensive contract. Obviously, relocating from Japan to the United States doesn't sound like a cool option, but I do think at this point it's very interesting to see that Tony Khan has not made a move on some of these bigger free agents, whether it's Bray Wyatt, whether it is Braun Strowman, whether it is Tanahashi. All of these things seem to be very interesting to me, and I don't, obviously, as time goes on, we'll start to really understand Tony Khan's strategy when it comes to acquiring talent. But as it seems right now, Tony Khan is trying to get the most bang for his buck by signing guys that are very known in the indie world and or known in the United States. An example, Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson, CM Punk. And I'm not saying Hiroshi Tanahashi is not known in the United States, but what I'm saying is that Tanahashi is clearly a bigger name in Japan because he's been there for like 15, 20 years. How does that translate into America? That's really hard to say. And if you're Tony Khan, making that kind of investment doesn't make sense. Now, there's no news as to whether or not Tony Khan made an offer, didn't make an offer, anything like that. Just previously, months ago, we talked about this. We talked about AEW possibly being interested in Okada, Tanahashi, and a few other New Japan talent. Now, also, if I'm AEW, I do want to consider my options using the Forbidden Door to bring in Tanahashi and Okada for a major storyline. The real question is, will it happen? Nobody really knows at this point because of the COVID pandemic and travel restrictions, but I do believe at some point we could very well see it happen in the future, maybe a year from now. And as long as AEW's relationship stays strong with New Japan, I think that's even more realistic than AEW signing talent from New Japan Pro Wrestling. Also, I do think if they were to sign talent from New Japan Pro Wrestling, it would weaken their relationship even more, which was something that they fixed in recent months. So just something to consider. My name is Ango. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I will see you guys next time. Peace.